Hello and welcome to Kramer's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is the 17th, it is Tuesday, and it's the 17th of March. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So let's have a look at what the most of the sectors in US did last night on the back of a fairly positive day yesterday, if it changed the picture of anything. Well, not really much. Here we can see utilities. Well, utilities is still the best looking one. And it opened higher, but it then sat back a little bit. But it is still the best looking one in a bullish trend, positive sentiment, and could maybe crawl higher in the coming days. We have home builders that really are under pressure here, or has been quite lately, but it is also at a support, a little bit oversold here short term, so maybe it can bounce. Again, this is not a recommendation or anything, so it could maybe bounce back. Oil companies, oil and gas exploration companies, still quite strong, but as we can see, RSI declining, so maybe a short-term exhaustion there a little bit. What else can we say? Well, here we have the materials. They have a support here. This is the materials sector illustrated by the ETFs materials sector here, 4880 on the ETF there. So seems to maybe have a little bit of foundation. The financials are still quite depressed also here, and look at this. We have death cross on the 55 and the 100, and give it a few more days, then we'll also see them coming both below the 200. So the financial sector seems to be really under pressure. Of course, we can have a little bit of a bounce. The regional banks look a little bit better, but they are not in any way strong at all. The oil service sector, the minor ones, they are just above the support range there. So, but also a little bit toppish there short term. So again, most sectors they do not look that good. And let's have a look at the semiconductor sector. What did that do yesterday? Because they actually had a fairly okay day with 2% higher, but in the bigger picture you can see we're still in a bearish trend here. We need to get back above 345 on the SOX, the semiconductor sector ETF. And if we're looking at Nvidia, that really didn't help it much either, 1.29% higher, but we can see intraday spiked higher, but it collapsed towards the end. And then I'll just touch upon just shortly on Oracle that had a fairly positive day here last week. But it got rejected at 55 moving average. We talked about it, and it broke out at this triangle-like pattern, but now it's back in it. So this bounce here doesn't seem to last very long. We have the RSI in a rising position or rising trend. It's not in a positive sentiment, needs to get back above 60 threshold, and I think if we move back below the rising trend line there, then there's a risk that it will just turn terribly sour again on Oracle. So be careful out there if you're trading that. On the overall indices, we had the Nasdaq 100. As we can see, it bounced a little bit, but we're still in a bearish trend, negative sentiment. So there's still risk lower. We have the 55 moving average below the 100. So be careful. It might just be one day that it bounced a little bit. And we can see here also pre-market, it is actually sliding back lower again. Here is the future on the Nasdaq 100 mini. So it's actually sliding, indicating lower levels again. And if we are looking just very quickly on the intraday 60-minute chart, you can see here yesterday during the normalization, it spiked above the 200 1-hour moving average, but it failed to stay above, so it slided back again. So that seems to be where we are, still fairly negative as it looks at the moment. The S&P 500 also bounced a little bit yesterday, of course, but here, if we're looking at the pre-market, it is actually sliding back again and if we looked at the 1 hour chart, then it will be the same more or less as the Nasdaq 100. The Dow Jones future, we can see it also bounced yesterday above the 200 moving average, but it is still in a bearish trend. Negative sentiment, no divergence. I am afraid we could see lower levels on the US market here towards the end of March. The small cap index still staying above 245, so they're doing fairly okay, but we are in a bearish trend. Let's have a look at what happened in Asia and in Hang Seng. It tried to push higher here, got rejected at the 100 moving average, and then it slided back again. So still also under pressure in Asia. And the Nikkei, same picture, really bounced from the 100 moving average, the future here. Still in a slightly positive undertone, but we are in a bearish trend. But we are just above the cloud, or in the cloud here. It hasn't taken that out, but we are below the 55 moving average RSI in a negative sentiment, so we can remove this one. So I think we could see it also trying to test 51,170, which is the key support here. That is a risk it could test that again. Moving on to the European markets, and it was fairly sideways yesterday on the Euro Stoxx 50. Tested the minor support there at 5,678. So let's have a look at what it seems to be doing here. Pre-market here is the Euro Stoxx 50 CFD/future. Support there 5,666, which we're talking about just around the 61.8 retracement right there. If it takes out this support here, then we could see another pressure down to the 5,500 support area, 5,468. That is not unlikely. Negative sentiment indicating we could see lower levels for Dow. So let's see where it will fare. It needs to get back above 5,878 to establish a bullish trend. DAX index, more or less the same picture. Here's the DAX cash index, 61.8 retracement there at 23,360. It's been trading, testing a couple of times. So let's have a look at what's going on here. Pre-market also sitting back. See it bounce from the 61.8 retracement of the bounce there. So it bounced there again. If it takes out that level 23,237, then we could have another go at the lows here below 22,914, where we have some support. I know it's spiked below, but it managed to crawl back above. On the forex market and euro dollar, a strong bounce yesterday, but it's fading a little bit, so it actually bounced to the 38.2 retracement there at 115. It was too strong for it, now sliding back again. We are in a bearish trend, and if it takes out 114 down here, well, let's have a look at the bigger picture. Then we are certainly in a situation that is a really key support. Then the medium term can drag it lower. But look at this. We have all moving averages declining here on the daily chart. On the weekly, it's a different story. We have 55 still up, we have 100 up, and we have the 200 up. So there's a little bit of the divergence there, really, but we are in a bearish trend, so that can also quickly change. And again, 114, keep an eye on that if you are trading euro dollar. The sterling dollar, or as cable it's called, still in a bearish trend. Bounced yesterday, 50% of this sell off there. But again, it's sliding back here this morning, and I think the pressure to the downside will still be on. Euro sterling really not doing much after bouncing here from the 86 level, trying to bounce up to the 38.2 retracement there, 86.65 area, and the lower part of the cloud, but also here in a bearish trend. So it's just a timing issue with those two. Those three FX crosses. Yen pairs, fairly quiet day yesterday. We are in an elevated stage. We are in a bullish trend on the dollar yen. There's no divergence on the positive sentiment on the RSI, and I think we will see dollar yen pushing higher here in the coming weeks. We are above these peaks here, and there is potential up to 100 of these peaks here, just around 162. Just below there. Euro yen, quite volatile here overnight. I mean, it massive dip here and then has bounced strongly. So it's still holding on. However, we do have negative sentiment on the RSI, so it is a little bit under pressure. But if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 181.81 or 181.80, well, then I think we'll see it down to around 181 here, possibly lower. The 55 coming down, we are below the cloud, negative sentiment indicating lower levels, and it seems like it is the euro that is doing the move. The Aussie yen still taking higher, despite the fact that we are showing some uptrend exhaustion, but that can go on for quite some time. We are still higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and now a higher low. Will we get a higher high? Well, yeah, then we are looking 115. If again, look out for this rising trend line there. Sterling yen bounced a little bit this morning here, and also in a bullish trend, high, 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 low, higher, high, and possibly higher low. If it takes out the peak there at 213.30, well, then we are in for a move towards 215. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, then this rising trend line could be tested, and we could have a reversal of the trend. On the Aussie dollar, well, yesterday opened, we talked about it, the support there just above the 55 moving average here around 69.40-45, bounced up to the 61.8 retracement here overnight. I think it will bounce further, but I expect a little bit of a setback, and then I think we'll see it bouncing further towards the 72. But in the bigger picture, we are basically range bound. Dollar Canada is taking a little bit of breather. It is the 137.50-55 that it needs to be taken out. If it does that, well, then we could see a push up to 139 in these peaks here. However, we do have the 100 moving average coming down there, currently crossing below the 200. Let's have a look. It's it's marginal. You need a micro photo to check that out, but it will do at least tomorrow. Then it's much more clear. So that will give it a pressure to the downside, and it could slide back here on the dollar Canada. And if it slides back below the cloud, well, then the downtrend could resume. And I think if it takes out 136.15, then it is likely to be confirmed. It's still negative sentiment on the RSI, so that is a little bit under pressure there. Sterling Canada bounced to the 61.8 and then set back, but still in a bearish trend, and it needs to take out these levels here around 183 to change that. It doesn't seem like at the moment. The Euro Swiss trading sideways, but you can see that's what it does. So then it moves a little bit of sideways, move a little bit of then down again and sideways here. Trying to bounce, but the negative sentiment, and there's no divergence indicating we could see a push lower eventually after a correction that could take it up to 90.85, possibly up to just above 91. Dollar Swiss, well, it is in a bullish trend, higher high, higher low, and higher high. Trying to really get away from the 100 moving average that is coming down there, struggling a little bit. I think we will see it pushing higher. We have the RSI sentiment in a positive tone there, and I think we could see at least up to 79.50, where we have the 200 moving average coming up. We have the 786 retracement here of this sell-off, and I think we'll see it pushing higher here in the coming days. The dollar index sat back yesterday. I actually formed this bearish engulfing top and reversal pattern. However, we are still in a positive sentiment, no divergence. It is indicating it's likely to push higher. So it is key resistance there at 100 spot 35 that should be observed. If it's taken out, then we're looking at levels towards 102. The metals sector, gold spots slide it back lower here, testing the upper part of cloud, still positive sentiment, but it has broken the uptrend. It's broken below the rising trend line there. What will it do now? Will we have a setback to 48.40? Keep an eye on that. I think if it takes out the lows from yesterday at 49.66, then we could see a test of this support there. Otherwise, I do believe we will see it trying to crawl back or maybe test the rising trend line from the underside. So a little bit muddy picture at the moment. Yes, there's positive sentiment, but it is a little bit under pressure, to say the least. Silver tested the support here at 78 overnight, spiked a little bit below and then bounced. And again, it could bounce further, but if it takes out the lows from overnight there at 77, well, then I think we'll be looking at the 72 support, maybe 70 support down here, where we have the 100 moving average coming up, giving it some support. So also we actually it is a little bit under pressure. We're below the cloud, below 55 moving average. Let's see what happens, but keep an eye on if it takes out the lows from yesterday. Platinum bounced from 100 moving average, and the support here at 1988 could bounce further. If it takes out that support there, well, then we could be looking at 1735, 1750 support. So also under pressure there. It needs to get back above at least 2245, and preferably also back above the 55 moving average to resume uptrend. Copper hovering around this rising trend line there, key support here at 563, so 562. So that is what's testing. Still positive sentiment. RSI bounced from the 40 threshold, but we are under pressure really there. So let's see. We have the 100 moving average coming up, giving a little bit of support, but so we could be a sideways range trading here in this area here for quite some time. Let's move on to crude oil. Opened a high yesterday, sold out more or less throughout the session, but we are still in a bullish trend. And I still believe we could see it crawling higher, so let's see about that. And if you're trading, let's have a look again at the intraday chart, the 1 hour. So it opened up here, and then we had a little bit of downtrend, but it never got below the cloud. It never got below the 100 moving average. And now again it's back above the 55 moving average. So I think if it starts taking out $100 a barrel level there on the WTI, then we will see the bullish trend continuing higher. So that is something to keep an eye on, and especially if it takes out the peak from yesterday at 102.42, well, then expect a push up to 110.30, possibly higher. I have some indicators. You can watch the video from yesterday that is indicating we could reach 160.61 level on the WTI. But let's see. Again, it's not a buy recommendation or anything. However, if it takes out the lows from yesterday, well, then suddenly we could see a little bit of a further setback, and then I would draw this trend, this Fibonacci. If that plays out, if it takes out the lows from yesterday, then suddenly we could see it lower, and then 161 is not really in the picture. More or less the same picture on Brent Crude Oil, of course. So keep an eye on that. It is already pushing higher, and if it takes out the peak there from yesterday at 106.5, then I think we will be looking 111.30, possibly looking at the previous peaks there. The European NatGas. Caught range bound here around 50.52. If it takes out the peak there from yesterday at 53.83, then I think we'll see it bouncing further towards $60. If it takes out the 45.40 here, then I expect lower levels below 40 euros. The US NatGas sliding lower. They are not really hard hit by what's going on in the Middle East, obviously. It is more that it is winter time. It's over in Northern America, so sliding lower here towards the previous lows there around 277, and it's broken this rising channel, a short-term rising channel there. Looking at interest rates and US 10-year Treasury yields, bounce a little bit from the cloud. We are a little bit stressed, but positive sentiment on the RSI indicating we could see higher levels. We also have all moving averages apart from the 200 that is now rising, 55 coming up there, 100 there, 21 there. It's not unlikely we could see further setback before the next move, but I think we will see it pushing higher here towards 435 area here in the coming weeks. Moving on to the European yields, little bit of a setback yesterday, so I have added this Fibonacci there to it. We could see it setting back to the 260, 286 support, but I'm not quite sure it will do that actually. You will see it's bounced a little bit here compared to yesterday, so it is not unlikely it will take out 3%. That would be a big news coming out if it takes out 3%. It was almost touching it here on the on Friday, so keep an eye on that. The UK 10 hasn't opened just yet here from yesterday. We could also maybe see a little bit of a setback there, so we could add a FIBO to that also, and maybe a little bit of a setback here the next few days. You can see massive move there, so it wouldn't be surprised to if we say a little bit of a setback. Key resistance there 486. Japanese 10 taking a little bit breather here, but it is in a bullish trend and is likely to push higher in the coming days and weeks. And look at what's happening in the crypto. Now it's crawling above the 38.2 retracement there slowly. We have positive sentiment now on the RSI, likely to push higher here in the coming. We can see a push up towards 80,000 possibly. It has established a fragile but still a bullish trend. We can see the higher lows here and also now higher highs. So a slightly bullish trend. We have the Ethereum flirting with the 38.2 retracement there at 2,377, but also here positive sentiment indicating likely higher levels. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and keep charting out there.